It happened. Hal Steinbrenner finally had his yearly meeting with the media, and his comments are raising some eyebrows. Plus, the Yankees are going to play a different brand of baseball this year, but it could be pretty fun. Also, there's been some smoke around a possible Nolan Arenado for Marcus Stroman deal. I'll tell you why it really doesn't make sense to me. I'll also make my yearly World Series prediction. I think the Yankees are going back, but I think they'll be playing somebody different. Welcome to Pinstripe Territory.
Just wanted to talk, that's all.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, January 29th, and we are officially 2 weeks from pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training. I don't know about you guys, but every year around this time, after the 2020 debacle where we began spring training and then they basically shut down half the season, I always get nervous. Is something going to mess up baseball? I worry about that. But I know everybody's focused on the Super Bowl, but we got some Yankees news and notes. Steinbrenner met with the media today. I got a whole lot about that to say. Tommy Kahnle to the Tigers. And now, I mean, you look at the Yankees who won't be back score. We got 5 out of 6. Soto was the only one who was wrong, unfortunately. Baseball America Top 30 Prospects released. Jason Dominguez remains number 1. Also, going to try and have one of those guys on next week to talk about it, and I'll have more on that later. We got a special promo for those guys. And then Aaron Boone announced that Bellinger is most likely going to be the Yankees center fielder, and Dominguez will play left. Hopefully he does a little bit better job adjusting to Earth's gravity than he did last year, but I'm confident he's going to have a good year. Marcus Stroman unsubscribed from the Yankees on all the social media stuff. You know, seems kind of petty, but it also seems indicative of a move that is coming soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And Tommy Kahnle will be next to Gleyber Torres in the locker room in Detroit. So I just wanted to say we'll miss your never-ending string of change-ups. And Tommy, good luck out there in Detroit. But tonight, the main story is about Hal Steinbrenner. I want to talk about how he obviously did his meeting with the Yes Network yesterday. I said in my introduction, his yearly appearance, which it seems like he has. Basically, Steinbrenner's schedule is like this. Before spring, he'll do this sit-down interview with Meredith Marakovits. And then when the Yankees struggle at some point in the season, he'll release a short statement about how it's unacceptable and we expect better from our fans and you'll see improvements soon. But how everything's actually good and, you know, hunky-dory behind the scenes and, you know, we'll turn it around. Players are there. And then if the Yankees go deep into the postseason, he'll release a statement. Last year, he had a statement. He was on field when the Yankees went to the World Series. They won in Cleveland. He was on field celebrating all that stuff. But he really avoids the media, you know, and I feel like that's part of the root of how people feel about him. Look, when Hal Steinbrenner took over with the Yankees, it was a continuation of the Steinbrenner legacy, but he's been a much different guy than his father was. And briefly, Hank Steinbrenner was actually in charge after George Steinbrenner. He was the guy who handed out the second A-Rod contract or whatever. But then he turned it over to Hal, and Hal immediately signed CeCe Sabathia, Mark Teixeira, A.J. Burnett, made all the big new moves, signed off on some really smart trades, Wilson Betemit for Nick Swisher. And the Yankees delivered on that amazing first offseason that he had in 2008-09 by winning the 09 World Series. It wasn't a perfect team, but still one of the better teams in baseball over the last 15 years. And as a fan like you, I had this feeling probably that you had, which was, hey, this Hal Steinbrenner regime is going to be pretty fun. But now, 15 years later, and that's our only chip. We have been back to the World Series one time, but we're 1-1 in the Hal Steinbrenner ownership era. I'll get back to Hal in just a second. But to frame his tenure properly, I feel like I need to talk about his dad a little bit first, George Steinbrenner. in my opinion, an imperfect owner, but he seemed to care in the same way that fans cared, right? He seemed to care in the same way that I cared. I remember during his tenure, there was a point when the fans hated him. At the end of the 80s, early 90s, I remember the stadium burst into applause the night he was suspended from baseball. His second tenure as Yankees owner, after he got reinstated, I feel like he did a lot less meddling with the roster, a lot less meddling with the manager and the coaching staff. He was still a tyrant behind the scenes, but he didn't disrupt the club that Gene Michael, and to some extent his assistant, Brian Cashman, was part of that, but it was mostly Gene Michael, built while George was in exile. They won. So naturally, George was becoming more popular, and he was continuing to spend, and he brought back some of his own players, big contracts for Bernie and for Jeter, kept those guys around. He went out and got the big stars that we wanted. David Cohn in 95, Cecil Fielder in 96. He gave second chances to Darryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden. He was a driving force behind, Chuck Knobloch and Roger Clemens coming to the Yankees, vital cogs in the system that won several championships. And then he began to tinker with the roster a little bit more after 01. Giambi was definitely a Steinbrenner move. He went with Sheffield over Vladdy Guerrero, which probably a mistake. But you could have given the Yankees to any number of WFAN callers, and they probably would have run the team in pretty much the same way that George Steinbrenner did. Vocal, out front, demanding both excellence and perfection, one often attained, the other often unattainable. But flash forward to Hal Steinbrenner, and despite maintaining a top 3 payroll for all these years, he hasn't been the same type of owner, the same type of visible presence as his dad was, right? We want to see our owner care about the team. That's why people loved Mark Cuban, right? If Mark Cuban was just some billionaire owner who stayed away from the team, I don't think he would be as popular with the fans of the Mavericks. Steve Cohen, definitely involved with the Mets, and that makes the fans endear him. Hal Steinbrenner, every time he gives an interview, says, I'm a fan. I watch the TV. Sometimes I have to shut the TV off with my shoe or, whatever it is he says. But I don't believe him because I don't see him at the games. I just don't see him. I mentioned earlier that he was doing his yearly interview with Meredith Marakovits, and that's exactly what I meant. He does pretty much one interview per year and a couple of statements. You might see him on the field if the Yankees make it to the World Series. But you never see him in the box. George Steinbrenner used to be up in the box, always visible to the cameras when the Yankees were playing poorly, arms crossed. That's who he was. And he was behind the batting cage. He was in the dugout. Like, how many times did we see him give interviews on MSG, back before the S Network, before the game, on the Yankees pregame show, where he's sitting in the dugout taking questions? You never see Hal Steinbrenner do that, ever. He's not as vocal. He doesn't do interviews all the time. He's not on camera. That doesn't mean that he doesn't want the Yankees to win. I think that's a fallacy that Yankees fans make. He spends a ton of money. He spends $300 million year in and year out, roughly. But the biggest problem that I have with Steinbrenner is that he trusts Brian Cashman too much. And I'll come back to that. I'm not finished talking about George. The way George would have done things. And this is where I wish Hal was a little bit more like his dad. When the Yankees were having their most important negotiation of the past decade, Aaron Judge, Hal Steinbrenner was on vacation in Italy. To his credit, he got on the phone and, he sealed the deal. He paid the money. He paid what he had to pay. But you can't tell me that George Steinbrenner wouldn't have rented out a restaurant in Tampa and had Aaron Judge sit there and hammer it out, eyeball to eyeball, man to man, like he did with, Sheffield and so many other players. I think the fact that Hal Steinbrenner isn't as vocal, isn't around the team as much, causes a lot of fans to think that he doesn't care as much as George. Maybe that's true, but also maybe it's unfair. But my problem with Hal isn't that he's cheap. It isn't that he doesn't care. He spends a lot of money on the team. My problem is that the money has been poorly spent because he's not a good executive. He trusts in Brian Cashman too much. The guy keeps getting his contract renewed. Got one championship in the last 24 years with almost infinite payroll. You know, he screwed up the roster multiple times. He passed on Bryce Harper. So my major gripe with Hal Steinbrenner is actually one of his positive human traits. And that is that he is loyal to a fault. It's not a good business trait. He's loyal to a fault. He likes Brian Cashman. He keeps him around. It's like on Entourage when, Vince wouldn't fire Turtle or whatever. It's like, he's obviously not qualified for whatever. Maybe not Turtle, but Johnny, Anyway, the one comment that he made that's been most dissected on this interview is that the Yankees and other owners can't do what the Dodgers are doing. Actually, that's imprecise. What he said was it's difficult for us owners to do what the Dodgers are doing, to spend like the Dodgers are spending. He didn't say impossible. He said difficult. What would have been more truthful to say is that it's difficult for us to spend as much as the Dodgers do and make as big a profit as we've been making. I wish that baseball had one of those policies where the owners had to disclose their books, because we would know exactly how much every team is making. And I bet the Yankees would make an enormous amount compared to most teams. Way, way more than most teams. They're a worldwide brand. They've been raking in money for decades. It's true that the Guggenheims are probably more well-positioned financially, and so is Steve Cohen with the Mets, because that's what they do. They're financial gurus. But to say the Yankees couldn't go out right now and sign somebody is ridiculous, as Jeff Passan said. But I don't think Hal's being cheap. I just think that maybe he's clamping down on Cashman misspending his money. And instead of getting rid of Cashman and getting someone competent, he's clamping down on money, which is the wrong approach because he's not a great executive. He's a loyal guy. Something that needs to be fixed, and honestly, one of the reasons that I was okay with not signing Juan Soto is that Cashman has handcuffed us roster flexibility-wise for the better part of a decade in ways that, George never did. Although the luxury tax thing is fairly new. They didn't have that under George. So, we shouldn't have to be paying for Aaron Hicks. We shouldn't have to be paying for all these guys who are not even with the team anymore. And it's probably going to be like that with DJ LeMahieu, too. So, Hal also said that the Yankees are a better baseball team this year than they were last year. I think there's some truth to that. We'll talk about that in a second. I really do believe the Yankees will win more games this year, but it's going to be a different brand of baseball. Dell 1994 says, Yankees can spend more, but no need for bad contracts. I agree 100% with that. You've got to get better at spending the money that you have, that you use. And the Yankees have not spent well for a while. But I do think they're going to have a pretty good ball club this year. When Joe Torre took over the Yankees in 96, they didn't have a slugging roster. You can win without a slugging roster. At least you used to be able to. I know that the Dodgers won this year. They got a slugging roster. The Rangers won with slugging the year before that. The Astros always slugged pretty good. But the Yankees, when they were at their best, they just played really good baseball. And I'm excited to see that again. Tino Martinez, the year before Torre got there, hit 31 home runs with the Mariners. That would have led the Yankees. Bernie Williams was in his Jazz Chisholm phase, about to break out with the power. I believe he had 29 home runs in 96. But the Yankees were not a slugging team. They were built around defense. Joe Girardi replaced Stanley. Mariano Duncan was terrific at second. Jeter was fabulous as a rookie at shortstop. Boggs, Hayes could both pick it over there at third base. Bernie out there in center was tremendous. Paul O'Neill in right field, tremendous. They made contact. They had a strong rotation. Jimmy Key and Andy Pettit. And, Kenny Rogers wasn't great. He had his ups and downs, but he still went 12-8 with a 4.5 ERA or 4.6 ERA, which for the time Not great. Nowadays looks a lot better. Looks a lot like, Carlos Rodon-ish kind of numbers. But, they had an unbelievable bullpen. I'm seeing the same type of thing from the Yankees this year. Strong starting pitching, strong bullpen. I know we have Judge, 58 home runs and a 300 batting average, just a monster offensively. The 96 through 98 teams didn't have that type of player, but, we got some young guys on the rise, and I expect bigger power numbers from Jazz Chisholm. Maybe Stanton hits 30, maybe Chisholm hits 30, but a lot of the other guys are going to hit 15 to 25 home runs because power isn't their game. I expect a lot better defense from the Yankees this year. I expect a lot better pitching out of the bullpen. Clay Holmes not there to blow 13 saves, going to make a big deal. We know what Volpe gives you at shortstop. Again, I'll put up the depth chart one more time. Bellinger's an improvement over Judge in center field. By swapping Soto and Judge in right field, you've improved that position defensively in an immense way. And on the corners, Goldschmidt's a Gold Glove winner, and you've hopefully got whoever wins the third base job. Right now, I've got Oswald Peraza as my guy, a premium defender as well. My only concern on defense is Jason Dominguez, who is, quite frankly, not as good as Verdugo in left, but should be a massive offensive upgrade over Verdugo if everything goes according to plan. The rotation, you see it right there. Cole, Fried, Rodon, Heel, Schmidt, and for the time being, Stroman, who I expect to be gone soon. The rotation could really be the Yankees' best rotation since those dynasty teams. In 2003, they had a really good rotation. Messina, Pettit, Clemens, Wells. That team had 4 15-game winners back when wins were an important stat. Messina had 17, Wells had 15, Pettit had 21, Clemens had 17, and they were just solid, right? The ERAs were higher, but that was a different era. But this rotation has a potential to be every bit as good. 4 or 5 guys who win 10 to 15 games, assuming they rack up innings, and I think they'll get more wins because the bullpen won't blow as many games, as many leads. It's about getting that lead early. We'll see if they have what it takes to do that. Like I said, they're going to have to play more baseball. It's going to be a different game this year, and we're really going to find out a lot more about Aaron Boone, who he is as a manager, managing some of these tight games. I'm really excited to see Cody Bellinger. I think he's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about all of this stuff tomorrow on Foul Territory. I'll be on as a guest, so tune in for that. Also, another thing that Hal Steinbrenner said is that Aaron Boone is working on an extension with the Yankees. It's a little bit surprising to me because the Yankees don't always re-sign guys, even their managers. They let Joe Girardi go. They took it right down to the wire, and it was apparently a decision made over the final couple of months. But, I'm surprised that they'd give him an extension. I have mixed feelings on Boone. I'm not one of these guys who hates Boone or thinks that Boone is incompetent. I feel like there have been a lot of communication issues under Boone. I feel like the fundamental play, or the lack thereof, falls under his umbrella of responsibility. He's made some real bullpen blunders. The Nestor Cortez thing in Game 1 of the World Series still bothers me. Had a nightmare about it the other night. I think he's too loyal to guys who are clearly struggling. There's no way that it should have taken 13 blown saves or whatever it was for Holmes to be pulled out of the closer role. There's no way that DJ LeMahieu should have gotten as many at-bats as he did, or Rizzo, or Aaron Hicks. Although I did see a report today. I don't know if I should call it a report. I saw a tweet from Eric Hubbs, who's not a reporter, but, has some sources. And he said that the Yankees were ready to release DJ LeMahieu last year, but Aaron Judge stepped in. So that's interesting. I do like that Boone fights for his players. I like that he'll get into an umpire's face. I find that fun. I think he's funny. I think it's good to have a manager who's got a little bit of personality. But personally, I would wait. I would let his contract unfold, expire. See how he does this year. See if he earns it. Like I said, a lot of tight baseball expected this year. I want to see how he manages under those situations. As they say in Moneyball, it's hard to manage under the cloud of a one-year contract, but I wanted to see that. So we'll see. I think they're going to probably give him the extension. It just seems like, to what I spoke about with Hal before, he's loyal to his guys. So let's talk a little bit about a rumor that's been floating out there today. Arenado and Stroman, a potential trade. This was floated on social media. I saw a few people posting about it. A lot of times I think people see a rumor on social media or a graphic that somebody makes and assumes that it's a real thing, that it's a real rumor. I don't think there's anything to this at all, and I wouldn't love it if there was. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. Sure, it's two bad contracts for each other, two 34-year-olds for each other, but Arenado's owed $75 million. And at most, Stroman's owed 36. And I just don't see the excess value there. I would much rather see Peraza get a shot. And then deal Stroman, for anybody who'll just take the salary, maybe even eat some of the salary and just get out from under it, right? I knew a guy one time who he wanted to sell his car. And I was like, what are you selling it for? He's like, I just want somebody to pick up the payments. That's kind of how I feel about Marcus Stroman. Just pick up the payments. But, Nolan Arenado, obviously elite defense. But I think the Yankees could probably get elite defense out of Oswald Peraza also. I really do. And offensively, Peraza hasn't done a lot, but who knows? If he gives a full season, he probably hits the 15 or 18 home runs that Arenado would hit. And Arenado, if you look at his spray chart, doesn't hit the ball to right field, which doesn't bode well for Yankee Stadium. So, just don't think that move makes a whole lot of sense. All right, let's go ahead and get to the final topic tonight before we get to your voicemails. Every year, I put out a World Series prediction. I don't always predict the Yankees to be in it. I try and be honest. I try and have perspective. You can't be in it every year, and you lose your credibility if you predict the Yankees will be in it every year. Last year, I thought they had a really good chance with the addition of Soto. I thought they looked really good back in 2020. I predicted them that year. They didn't make it. That didn't work out too well. They really underperformed, and COVID messed things up. But I don't think there's a better team than the Yankees on paper in the American League right now. In a playoff series, obviously anything could happen. Garrett Crochet could shut them down a couple of times for Boston. If the Mariners get in, their pitching is strong enough. Good pitching beats good hitting. And honestly, the Guardians gave us everything we could handle last year. I think they're going to be hurting a little bit without Josh Naylor. I think he added more to that team than they think. There's no quit in that team. The Royals are going to be tough. The Tigers are going to be tough. Orioles are going to be better offensively, but I think they're going to take a step back pitching-wise because they lost Corbin Burns. The Astros, I think, have taken a step back. They might change if they get Bregman. But I see a very similar path to the Yankees getting to the World Series in 2025 as they did in 2024. Win the division, do your best to get home field advantage, and then ride a good bullpen and a couple of big bats, hopefully, through the playoffs. Hopefully, Giancarlo gets hot again. Maybe you get Judge hot this year. In the National League, I know everybody's saying the Dodgers, but I'm not going to. I am not going to. I think there's an under-the-radar team that's ready to win it all right now, and that is the Philadelphia Phillies. I think the Padres have taken a step back, and especially if they trade Dylan Cease and Michael King, it's like they're not competing to win the NOS at that point. Diamondbacks are getting a little bit better. They got Burns. They won 89 games last year. I could see them winning 94, 95 games. Jackson Merrill is going to be better. But it's clear to me that the Phillies have been on the brink for the last couple of years. They have great pitching. They have great chemistry. Every time we have somebody from the Phillies on Foul Territory, they just sound so hungry. And I think this is year that Bryce Harper has his Michael Jordan versus the Pistons in 92 kind of playoffs against the Dodgers. I think that everybody's going to be gunning for the Dodgers, and the Phillies are going to get it done. Braves are going to be tough too. I think the Phillies are the team to beat in the National League. They've got great pitching. They got a great pitching prospect coming in Andrew Painter. They're hungry. They've had 2 flameouts in a row. There's a storylines video about them on Foul Territory today, so check that out. But I think that they're going to be filthy. And so while everybody's predicting a World Series rematch, Yankees-Dodgers, or not everybody, but a lot of Yankees content creators are, I'm predicting a rematch of 2009 Yankees versus Phillies. Quick word from the Foul Territory guys. Oh, by the way, again, I'm going to be on Foul Territory tomorrow to talk about the Yankees, so tune into that. But anyway, a quick word from the Foul Territory team about 1-800-FLOWERS. Link is in the description. And then we've got 3 voicemails. I'll be back in just a few minutes.
Hey, Valentine's Day is coming up, and we have the recommendation for you to check out right now. Don't wait. It's 1-800-Flowers.com. This year, we're partnering with 1-800-Flowers to make sure you're a Valentine's legend with an exclusive offer for the FT fam. It's double the roses for free. When you buy 1 dozen, they're going to double your bouquet to 2 dozen roses. It's the perfect way to wow her without breaking the bank. 1-800-Flowers always delivers. Let them dominate this holiday. It's what they do best.
Think about everyone in your fam that deserves some love on Valentine's Day. I sent a bouquet to my daughter at college, and it lit up her day. I also added an awesome vase to the order for her, so she's got it all.
All roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak, cared for every step of the way, and shipped fresh to ensure lasting beauty. Don't wait. Think ahead this year. Make it easy and get that deal right now. When you order 1 dozen, they'll double the rose bouquet for free. That's the FT deals that we're always looking out for. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/FT. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/FT.
All right. Special shout out to Scott Braun for reading that. So, by the way, our buddies at Baseball America released their top 30 Yankees prospects today. If you want to check that out, use the promo code Pinstripe30, get 30% off the first year of your annual subscription. I'm hoping to have one of the guys, either J.J. Cooper or Jeff Pontus, on next week probably to talk about, the fast risers and things like that, what could be coming up for the Yankees prospects in the system. But let's go ahead and fire away at some voicemails.
Yo, what's going on, Derek? So obviously I've seen the news today. Hal Kim signed with the Rays, so we're going to be seeing him a few times this year. And a pitcher that I was actually kind of interested in, unfortunately, was another righty reliever. Estevez just signed with the Royals. Curious to know if you think they got any moves left in them. At this rate, I'm going to assume that we're probably going to hold firm with what we have position-wise. And I'm hoping we at least add 1 or 2 more lefty relievers in the pen. I'd like to see Chafin, possibly Hill, some combination along those lines come back as a return. Just want to know what you thought about it, and if you think we're going to still try to get any more position players. I'm assuming we're probably also going to hold on to Stroman at least through the parts of spring training here, and just to see if any other team becomes desperate enough to take more of his contract than what we want to eat. All right, man, want to hear your thoughts. Take it easy, brother. Only, 2 weeks or so left till pitchers and catchers? Let's go.
2 weeks. Can't wait. We're going to be doing post games after every game. Probably 3 to 5 voicemail shows every week during the morning hours, and obviously breaking news, all that good stuff. So, going to be another fun season here on Pinstripe Territory, first full season of Pinstripe Territory. As far as moves go, I just don't know at this point, man. I mean, I do feel like they're trying to move Stroman. I think it could happen sooner rather than later, considering he just unfollowed everybody. It's like the Yankees said, hey, we're going to try and move you before spring training. Don't buy a flight yet, right? So, a lot of times pitchers, they start packing and stuff right now. We're a couple weeks out. So the fact that he's unfollowing and basically cutting ties with the Yankees, it says something. I'm not sure exactly what, but I think a move is coming soon. And I do think that there's some chance that Tim Hill could re-sign. We saw some relievers come off the board today, as you mentioned, Tommy Kahnle, Carlos Estevez. I think that Tim Hill is the perfect guy. I mean, as long as he's healthy, get him before somebody else steps in. You'd hate it if the Red Sox or the Dodgers swooped in and picked him up.
Hey, Derek. This is Caden. A little bit on Steinbrenner. I mean, he gives us a $300 million payroll to go spend every year. So I don't know. I don't like knocking Steinbrenner too much. Now, when I saw this video coming out, I immediately thought of Jeff Passan. I thought what he said was absolutely ridiculous, and that's where I'm going to end it. I think it's absurd. Thank you.
Yeah. Look, I don't know how much Passan knows about the Yankees' finances. Like, I don't know what. I know he's the newsbreaker for MLB, for ESPN. I don't know how much insight he has to the financial workings of the team. I'm trying to get David Sampson on. I don't know if he'll be on, but he's a guy who has been an executive. He was an executive for the Marlins. He really understands, the intricacies of baseball finances, and he says the Yankees don't clear a lot of money, which I'm interested to ask him about. I want to just have a discussion to flesh that out. So if you're watching, David, come on the show. Let's talk about it. One more voicemail here, and then we will call it a Monday or Wednesday.
Hey, Derek, this is
Monday.
Chris from NJ. I love the show. I heard that Boone is rumored to get an extension. Heard that might come in the next couple of days. I want your thoughts and opinion on it. I don't really like it, but, I mean, there's nobody else to get. If you have anyone else in mind, I would love to hear. Love the show, Derek.
You know, to be honest, I hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about who could be a possible replacement. I pretty much figured the Yankees were going to stick with Boone this season anyway. Like, let's say Boone fell off a cliff or got hit by a bus and you had to replace him. I would love to see somebody from the dynasty, but I just don't, I don't know who wants to do it. Like, does Jorge Posada's got no managerial experience, but he's the right kind of mind. You know who I think would be a great manager, and I swear to God, I'm not biased because I work with him? Eric Kratz. I mean, the guy, when he first made the major leagues, they called him Coach Kratz. I think Kratz would be an amazing manager. I'm surprised nobody's hired that guy yet, but, ex-catchers tend to know the game very well. They're viewing the whole field they're the only person who's got a view of the whole field, right? So I think that, catchers have a unique perspective on the game. They understand pitching. They understand hitters. So maybe a catcher, I don't know. What's Girardi doing these days? Yeah, I really liked him. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for tonight. Thanks for watching. Reminder to like and subscribe. All that good stuff. Check out Foul Territory tomorrow. I will be on the show. Again, check out 1-800-Flowers in the comments, the link. Use the link and you can get extra roses for your girl, your boy, whoever, your kid, your dog. Doesn't matter to me. Just use the code. We'll see you next time. Hey, while I've got you here, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Pinstripe Territory is the official Yankees podcast of the Foul Territory Network. We are home to the #1 most watched MLB postgame show on YouTube since 2021. We're here after every Yankees game and for reactions to all the best news and rumors during the offseason. Be a part of the show by calling into the voicemail 718-899-1068. Try to keep it clean for me. And if you ever miss us on YouTube, be sure and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Go ahead and rate us 5 stars. It'll help other people find the show. Thanks for watching. See ya.